All right, everyone. So welcome back to the channel. Today, we're just going to talk a little bit about the Mexican residency process and the costs involved in that. So my wife and I both got our temporary residencies last week, and it was great to do. And I just wanted to share with you some of the costs that we had as we were going through the process. So we're both in Ontario, Canada. So in order to do that, we had to go to one of 3 different consulates in Ontario. We either go to Toronto, to Ottawa, or to Leamington. So we ended up getting a meeting in Leamington, and I just did it for myself to get the temporary residency done one time to see if we could get it done, and then we would move forward with my wife's. So we got the appointment and got my temporary residency, and then realized that we couldn't get another appointment for my wife Kyla just because they were all booked. So what ended up happening was, rather than getting another temporary residency in Ontario, we went down to Mexico and did a family unity. So I got my temporary residency part 1 in Ontario, went down to Puerto Vallarta, and applied for my part 2 of the temporary residency, the Canje, and got that done. And then right after that, we added Kyla as a Mexican temporary resident through the family unity process. So I'm just going to go through a little bit of the costs. So in Ontario, at the Leamington consulate, the registration fee to get in to have an appointment was $76 Canadian, which is about $55 US or 1,037 pesos. So that allows you just to sit in front of one of the administrators in Leamington, and they will approve you or not approve you. Luckily, we got approved, so that was fantastic. I got my temporary residency in Ontario and then had to do the Canje process down in Mexico. The second thing we had to do before we actually left and went to Mexico is we had to get our marriage certificate apostilled. So we had that done, and that was $280 Canadian, $131 US, or 2,450 pesos. So in order to get the marriage certificate apostilled, we sent it off, it got apostilled and came back, and that was the cost. So that was part 1. So we're leaving part 1 with just me getting my temporary residency. Kyla still hadn't gotten anything. So the next step was to actually get to Mexico within a certain time frame and go through the process. So I think we had 6 months to get to Mexico, and then once we arrived in Mexico, we had 30 days to go through the process. So we hired a facilitator, Dorian from MexPat Services, and I'll put the link for them and information in the video, but we used a facilitator for the process in Mexico. And we decided that we would get that done in Nuevo Vallarta, which is a small sort of area just outside of Puerto Vallarta. So we actually had an Airbnb in Puerto Vallarta, and we had an Airbnb in Nuevo Vallarta. So both of those things worked out. We got to see 2 different areas of Mexico while we were down there. And the facilitation cost for both of us was 8,000 pesos, or $588 Canadian, or $430 US. So that is to have them help us through the process. And for what it's worth, it was worth every peso, every Canadian dollar, every US dollar to have them there. I don't think we would have been able to do it on our own the first time through, which would have cost us our trip. So if you can get it done, get a facilitator, and I highly recommend, if you're going to the Puerto Vallarta area, use MexPat. Again, I'll leave their information in the link below. The second thing that had to happen was we had to have the marriage certificate apostille translated. So we had already scanned that and sent that down to Dorian at MexPat, and he had sent it off for translation. And the reason that they do that is so that the person that's looking at your application can read the marriage certificate. So that was an additional 1,000 pesos, $53 US, or $74 Canadian. And that happened before we actually went down to Mexico. We sent that down, and they had the translator look at it. So when we actually got to Puerto Vallarta, they had the documents already. At the immigration office, for me to get my Canje done, it was 5,570 pesos, $297 US or $410 Canadian. So that's the payment that you make in order for them to take your temporary residency and give you the actual shiny card that you need to become a temporary resident of Mexico for your 1-year term. The next thing that we did right after I got my card is that we did Family Unity for Kyla. So Kyla was joining me through Family Unity, and the first thing they did was they had to review the marriage certificate on site. So that was another 1,780 pesos, $94 US or 130 Canadian. So that wasn't an unexpected cost. We didn't know about that one, but again, it was $130 Canadian that we paid, and they reviewed the marriage certificate on site, and that passed, so that was good. And then we did the actual Family Unity temporary residency cost, which was same as mine, 5,570 pesos, 297 Canadian or 410 US dollars. So that gave us the temporary residency for me and the Family Unity temporary residency for Kyla all in. The total was 25,406 pesos, $1,356 US or 1,867 Canadian. So it's a fairly reasonable way to get your residency in Mexico, and we thought it was well worth it. Of course, there's the other costs, the flights to Mexico, the accommodations, but that's going to differ by person. You may stay in an extravagant hotel or whatever, but we didn't include those costs. This is just the true costs that we incurred in order to get our residency done. So hopefully that helps some of you understand the costs involved in order to get your residency if you're from Ontario and you're going to Leamington and then to Puerto Vallarta. I'm not sure if the costs are different in different areas, but that was our situation, so we just wanted to share that with you and let you know those were the costs. So hope that helps. Okay, have a great day.